time we start the recording, I'm in this class.
Alright, so just kind of mixing up the way I'm presenting it, I guess. I've been having you write a lot, so decided to type them up for you. Yeah, so what's better? This is better?
Yes. Then I can just highlight.
So then I can focus on it and I have to more focus on like writing.
True.
And then I can extra and you can talk.
But will you focus? My fear is you're going to look at it and be like, I already have it, I don't need to listen to Davis anymore.
I feel like when I'm writing it,
I'll listen. We should.
I feel like we'll listen better. When I'm writing it, I'm thinking about like typing all the words down and then I don't.
Yeah, you can't like listen and write. Alright, I told you, like, let me know. Because lecturing is not like my thing, you know, I'm used to doing math problems. So we'll see how, I mean, if this is good, then that's cool. I have no problem doing this. It's easier for me, too, because I don't have to, like, it's really, honestly, kind of annoying to wait for you guys to write stuff, too. So. Not like I'm mad at you, it's just like, it's how it goes.
Look at me.
What?
Just don't yell at us like you did.
You don't even know. Alright. So,
First hour?
yeah, I got a little mad first hour.
What happened first hour?
I didn't,
Go off. Was it?
yeah,
It was about like.
doesn't matter.
Interrupting him, which is kind of what we're doing right now.
Doesn't matter. No, they're just, it's a respect issue. Alright, so we're going to go through different ways to get samples. And you get samples for experiments, like how you get the people for an experiment or just for a survey or something. But there's good ways and bad ways and a couple different types of ways that are acceptable to get people for your survey. The main kind, or the kind of the kingpin that you use whenever you can, is simple random sampling. So what this means is every possible sample, every group has an equal chance of being selected. That is different than every person has an equal chance of being selected. So those are two different things. So it's not every individual, it's every group. So let's say this. If I stood at the doorway and every third person that walked into the room, I gave a survey to or whatever. Does every person have the same chance of being included in that survey? Probably, maybe. I mean, we could argue about that. But I could definitely argue this. Does every group of 5 people have the same chance of being selected? Could I get the first 5 people to walk into the classroom the way I'm doing that? If I'm doing every third person, I'm going to take 5 people. Like, when you guys walk in, I want to grab 5 of you and give you a survey. I want to do an SRS of 5 people and give you guys a survey. If it's true SRS, every group of 5 of you has to have the same probability of being selected. So the way to do that is put your names in a hat, mix it up, draw out 5. Then every possible group of 5 has the same probability. If I say I'm going to randomly choose a row and take all 5 people in that row, let's just pretend you all are in the same row. Is that simple random sampling? Does every group of 5 of you have the same chance of being selected? I'm going to randomly choose a row. I'm going to take the 5 people back there. Could I then get Robo, David, Evie, Ethan in the same group? I couldn't. So therefore, it's not simple random sampling. It has to be every group of you. This is a hard thing to understand. It's hard. Let's talk through these examples here. So this is the same idea. I stand at the mall entrance and survey every 10th person that comes in. Is that an SRS? And the answer is no, it's not. Because not every group of people had the same chance of being selected. For example, the first 3 people that came in couldn't be in the same group. It's impossible for them to be in the same group the way I designed my setup. And because of that, it's not simple random sampling. And I'm not even saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not simple random sampling. So every 10th person that comes in is not an SRS, because not every group is possible or equally likely. So we'll talk through a couple more examples. Let's say that, let's go back to the rows thing. So let's just pretend there's 5 people in every row in this classroom. I mean, I know there's not, but I'm going to put the row numbers in a hat. I'll mix them up. I'll pull out a row. I'm going to go to that row. Nobody knows that. I'm going to go to that row. So I pulled out row number 4. Boom. You guys are my sample. Is that simple random sampling? It's not. Because every group of 4 didn't have the same chance of being selected. Could I have gotten these 4 people with my method? It would have been impossible to get those 4 people with my method. Or those 3 over there and 1 here, or 2 and 2. So my method there's nothing wrong with my method, but it's not simple random sampling. Every single group has to be possible. How would you make an SRS? Names and hats. That's like the legit way. Because then is every group of, no matter who every group of 4 has the same chance of being pulled out of the hat, right? What about this one? I'm going to randomly choose a page of the phone book. So, there's 1,000 pages. I put numbers 1 through 1,000 in a hat. I grab a number, I go to that page. I take every single person on that page. And that's my sample. Is that simple random sampling? It's not. Could I get, in that example, someone with the last name of A, and the last name of D, and the last name starts with J, and the last name starts with Z, all in the same sample? I couldn't, and therefore, it's not simple random sampling. Every group has to be possible. Now, my method isn't bad, it's random, but it's not simple random sampling unless every group. I don't know. Yeah.
So wait, those 2 be like.
We'll get there. Those will be systematic. I think I put that right. So this is an example of this to be systematic. Which isn't even bad. It's just not SRS. So the only real way to do SRS is the names in a hat. So example, I put everyone's name in a hat, draw 10's names, SRS, yes. Every group of 10 had the same chance of being selected. I kind of want to do it. Everybody go out in the hallway. Leave! Get out of here! Go away!
That's me twice.
I guess.
Wait, is there water? Is this hard? Oh, it's A all the way. Yeah.
That's water sauce. You don't want this water. You're like drinking metal. Okay, get in line against the one. Remember who you are standing next to. Alright, remember who you're standing next to. And then start walking in. You get nothing. You get nothing. You get a piece of gum. You get nothing. You get nothing. You get a piece of gum. You get nothing. You get nothing. You get a piece of gum.
I hate you.
You get nothing. You get a piece of gum. You get nothing.
David
You
get a
get
piece of
nothing.
gum?
You get a piece of gum.
This is so
Nothing.
hard.
Nothing.
You gave David a piece of gum.
How does David get a piece of gum?
So,
You should have purposely skipped him. You ruined the experiment.
what I did, that might have been like overemphasizing the point. I don't know, but at least we got off and did something. I gave every third person a piece of gum. So, was it possible? I gave 5 pieces of gum. Was it possible for you and the two people next to you to be in the same group? It was not. Is that simple random sampling what I just did? No.
Okay.
Does that help?
I finally understand.
Yeah.
I don't have any more gum.
Except if you got gum, get out of the line.
I hope I have enough to do that fit though. Alright. So it has to be that every possibility of like I give out 5 pieces. It has to be that all groups of 5 have the same chance of being selected. And because is it possible the first 5 people to walk in all got gum? No. So therefore they're not as equally likely as anything else, and it's not simple random sampling. So what I just did is systematic. Alright, look at this next one. So I want 80 high school students for my sample. And I want to make sure I get some of every grade level, so I'm going to randomly choose 20 freshmen, 20 sophomores, 20 juniors, 20 seniors to get my overall 80 people. Is that simple random sampling? Is every group of 80 people in the school equally likely?
Yes.
No, because you can't get 80 sophomores.
Could I get 80 seniors? Could I get 80 juniors? Could I get 70 sophomores and 10 freshmen? So again, this is not a bad method. I'm like making sure I get some of every group. That's kind of like block, right? But it's not SRS. So this would be no. Every group not equally likely. For example, couldn't get 80 juniors. That is an example of stratified, if you want to write that next to it. Why are you so excited about stratified? Keep mentioning. You hadn't even learned that stuff yet, and you were trying it. Yeah, well, you hadn't learned like the stratified part yet. Okay. Yeah, remember your con is due Friday. Today and tomorrow we'll finish up all the material you need. So I'd like to, whatever time we have left today, I'll give you to do con 2. I don't know if we'll finish early or what, but. All right, we talked about this one a little bit already. So I'm gonna randomly choose a page in the phone book, put my finger down and read off the next 50 names in the phone book. Is that an SRS? It's not, because I couldn't get like last names that are A, D, K, it's impossible. So it's not an SRS. It's systematic, like you have a method for it, you have a system, but it's not SRS because not every group is equally likely. So that's SRS, and that's what's used like whenever possible. Well, not necessarily. It's kind of the standard, but it's not necessarily the best every time. The next one is stratified, which also has the initials SRS, so this is kind of strange, but whenever you say SRS, you're talking about simple. You wouldn't say SRS and mean stratified, you would actually just say stratified, so don't call this an SRS, even though it has the same initials, which is annoying, but deal with it, I don't know. Stratified is basically block. So there's something about the groups that, here, let's do this. We're going to do it again. Split up into groups. I want above average height males in one group, below average height males in another group, above average height females in one group, below average height females in another group. See which one needs more people and go there. You think like separates the two groups the same in one group? Yeah, alright. So I want to do an experiment on like who can dunk a basketball, let's say. Like if I give you stop talking, for God's sake. Yeah, we're already at 1-6. I've got like this magic potion that I think can make you jump higher. But, you know, females and males have different jumping abilities, and if you're tall or short, that's going to impact whether you can dunk or not. So, this is the block design. This is a stratified. I separated you guys into groups that have common characteristics, right? Tall males, short males, tall females, short females. Stratified random sampling, I would randomly choose like 1 or 2 of you from each group. What's the advantage of that?
You can test within a group instead of person.
I think you guys both said, say what you said again. If I just randomly chose 8 of you, is it possible I don't get any females?
Yes.
Yes. So if I do stratified, I'm like 2, 2, 2, 2. Does it make sure I get something from every group?
Yes.
Yes. The other advantage is I'll be able to compare. Maybe my magic potion really helps short people, but it does nothing for tall people. Maybe my magic potion really helps females, but it doesn't help males. And if I just randomly chose 8 of you, would I know that? I would not. Sit down.
Okay, this makes more sense.
Does that help, like the visual? Does it really?
Set it up for everyone.
All right, I got one more.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Now the gum makes you jump high.
Getting up, it's good to stretch.
Yeah.
Release your brain energy.
Okay. I divide the class into males and females, take a random sample of 10 from each group. Is that stratified? Yes. Why is it not simple random sampling? Could I get 20 guys in the same group? I could not with what I said here. So therefore it's right. It's not a simple random sampling because I couldn't get 20 guys, for example. Not every group is equally likely, but this way I'm making sure I get males and females, and I might get more information. I mean, that's part of it. So next one is the 20 freshmen, sophomores, juniors thing we talked about. So is that, why is that stratified and not simple? So it is stratified because you're making sure you get something from every group. It's not simple because I couldn't get like 80 juniors in the same group or 80 freshmen in the same group. So not every group is equally likely. So it's just like block. It's exactly the block design. You're putting things into groups that have similar characteristics. This next one. So I divide the class down the middle and ask what their favorite cereal is. Be careful here. Is that stratified random sampling? Do those groups have anything in common that really is relevant to what we're talking about? No. So this would not be, I don't even know how to say that. No, it's not relevant.
There's no relevant block. Is that what there's no block?
There's no characteristics that are relevant to what we're talking about. So I want to split up into groups that I think matter for some reason, right? Like when I split you guys up into tall and short, male and females, I think that might matter because we're talking about like dunking a basketball. I don't think that people that sit over here tend to favor Frosted Flakes and people that sit over here tend to favor Golden Grams or something, you know? So it just doesn't matter. I don't want to start talking about cereals.
So would it be different if you asked everyone what your favorite cereal was and
Then
then
I group them, yeah. So this is just like, I'm just like picking something that doesn't matter. So it has to be an important reason that I decided to split them up. Okay. Try that one. Try that example. We actually have math here. There is a math problem in this.
There's a math problem inside my top.
Yep, there's a math problem in your math class. This is crazy stuff. So you just want to make sure you're choosing the same percentage in the sample that exists in the population. So if 50% of the population is white, you want 50% of your sample to be white. So how many white people do we want here? So I want 100 whites. If 25% of my population is Asian, I want 25% of my sample to be Asian. So 50 Asians. And same thing, 50 black people. Why would I ever split up by, what would be a reason that I would split up by race? Let's be careful here. If we think race matters, right? So I'm only going to do that if I think race is important to what I'm talking about. Why might stratified be better in some cases? Why might stratified be better in some cases than SRS? So it leaves some space to draw because I do want to draw down there. But we gave two reasons. One is it makes sure you pull from every group. And two, you get more information. You know, the 20 freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors thing. I might find out that freshmen are like, love our lunch schedule and sophomores hate it or something. And if I did a random, I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't really care either way, but... Alright. If I wanted to draw this, so I was kind of thinking of, I don't know if this will help or not, but I was thinking of like putting shapes. Like if you had, so these X's represent a group with something in common. These circles represent a group with something in common. These triangles represent a group, like all these triangle people are the same. And then we got some square people. So this is 4 separate groups. I'm trying to like say that these people all have something in common. These people have something, you know what I'm saying? And then my SRS, or my stratified, would be to take 2 or 3 or whatever the situation calls for from each group. That's the same idea I was trying to explain when I had you guys split into groups. I'm just doing it with shapes instead of... So I would take like 2 X's, 2 squares, 2 circles, 2 triangles. Make sure I get everything from, or make sure I get something from every group, and it allows me to find out, well, maybe circles really feel strongly about this, and squares hate it, or something. Does that make sense what stratified is? Does that seem alright? Now, I want you to get into groups of 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Yeah. No, really.
Yes, we all hate each other.
I want you to get in groups of 3 where you have nothing in common with each other. Just like randomly get into groups of 3. Is this a group that has a common? You can't count to 3? Is that what this is?
I thought you said 4.
We changed it. We made it.
Just kidding, jokes. We don't have the same race.
This is horribly not mixed up. Mix up better.
This is
Sarah,
What?
the guy over here.
But you're also gender.
If you're in a group of 3, it's physically not possible. Matthew.
How about we get Dylan out of there? Wait, why? Wait.
Yeah, look how you mix it up.
Spread out
Like
so
you
I
throw
can
Dan.
see the groups a little better. Like, is that one big group or is that Alright, we're a group here. So, listen, this is called cluster sampling. This is kind of the opposite. So, in stratified, let's say we're still doing the dunk basketball thing. Okay, so I think what matters is gender and height. So in stratified, I put you into groups that had those things in common, right? I put you into groups that were all the same. Now I'm putting us in groups that are all different. And what I'm going to do is so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us, 6 groups. I'm gonna put 6 numbers in a hat, mix it up, and pull out 2 groups. And I'm just gonna hope that between those 2 groups, I get some of every type. So let's say I pick group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6. I randomly pick groups number 2 and 3, so that's you guys. So I'm just hoping. It's just kind of like I don't have enough money or time to really spread things out or really split things up, so I'm just gonna pick 2 big groups and hope they're mixed up enough for me. I'm gonna hope I get some short females, some tall females, some short males, some tall. So the big difference is in stratified, you were standing next to someone that had something in common with you, right? In cluster, you can be standing next to them. Does that make some sense? Okay, good stuff. That felt like you guys weren't that excited about standing up that time.
Yeah, I like to go in the hall. Yeah, can we go in the hall?
No.
They taste like the water.
The starting people in Ethiopia would love those apples.
So just, fly them over to Ethiopia.
It tastes like the water. I don't know how to put that into words.
Oh.
Like, it makes sense in my head.
I'm gonna, what, the one we just did?
In this hall.
Because I was thinking, so how would that not be SRS?
Why is it more efficient than just like
Okay, so let's talk here. So that's my favorite question. Why is that better? Or why would I ever use that? Let's say that I wanted to survey 10,000 high school students in Michigan. And in my survey, I want to make sure I get some freshmen, some sophomores, some juniors, some seniors. Some of every race, some of every gender, some of every socioeconomic status. So I could get a list of all those students in Michigan, all those characteristics, spend a bunch of time figuring out, like, okay, put them into groups. I need like 3 people from all these groups. Well, then I got to go to 80 different schools, and I got to come into Milan and get like 1 person. And then I'm going to go to Saline, and okay, I need you and you. And then I got to go to Skyline, and I pick you, and from my list. That's a pain in the ass, right? So this is an example where you would use cluster. You would put all of the names of all the high schools in a hat, mix it up, and pull out like 10 high schools. And then you would use those 10 high schools, and what would you hope? That they're mixed up. That the playing field kind of evens out. So it's not the best, but I would use it if like time and money become issues. Yeah, it's not ideal. It's just a method. So the big difference here is these are heterogeneous groups. Heterogeneous means different, like mixed up. I could do this at our school. Instead of like going around and trying to get 20 freshmen, 20 sophomores, 20 juniors, 20 seniors, I could randomly choose 5 classrooms during third hour and just hope that I get freshmen, I get all grade levels, I get all genders, I get all race, I get social, I get them all mixed up. I might not, but it's a method. I'm not saying it's the best method, but it's a method. Does that make sense what I'm explaining? Why might this be better than SRS or stratified? Time and money. That's really the only ways you would ever do that. So you wouldn't do this unless you had like not enough resources or not enough time to actually do what you wanted to do. Now if I were drawing this, this might be one group. That might be another group. That's okay. What's wrong with that? That might be another group. And then what do I do? What do I pick? Like 1 or 2 of the groups, right? I'm not going through and identifying like I need 2 squares, 2 triangles, 2 circles. I would randomly pick 1 or 2 groups. So let's say I end up with that one and that one. And just hope that I get all the different types that I'm looking for. This is not the most commonly used, but it's one you have to know what it is. Alright, those are the hard ones. Those three are the hard ones. The next three will take like 2 minutes. Convenience is, I'm just super lazy about it, and I'm just going to ask whoever's close to me. So, raise your hand if you think you're good at math. Why is that you're in an AP math class. Why is that not like a fair sample? Because we're in an AP math, right? So it's like, or like I go to the volleyball game, and I ask like the 10 people next to me, I'm taking a survey. Do you like volleyball? Do you like volleyball? Do you like volleyball? It's just like being super lazy, and so not good. I mean, that's easily understandable though, right? Voluntary sampling. I'm going to go on the PA and say, anyone that would like to fill out a survey about abortion, please come to Mr. Davis's room after school. Who is going to come into my room and fill out the survey? People that feel passionately one way or the other. If you're just like, I kind of see both sides, you know, I have a slight opinion one way, but I'm not going to really get all worked up about it. Are you going to come to my room and fill out the survey? Probably not. But if you're like, this is how I feel, everyone should feel this way, screw everyone that does, then you're going to probably show up, you know? So, is it fair? Is it unbiased? It's not, because you're only getting like a certain type of person. Radio call-in shows. You know, call in, let's talk about how do you feel about, should this person be fired? Who's going to call in? People that are very like, yes, that person should be fired, or very not. If I don't care, I'm not going to take the time to call in. So you only get like the passionate people, which is not a fair representation, right? Last one is systematic. That's what I was doing, like every 3rd person to walk through the door, every 10th person to walk through the door. That's not terrible. That's not like unfair. Yeah, so that's systematic. So I want you to go through these 9 back here. Tell me what kind it is, and tell me if you think it's fair or not. So instead of good or bad up here, nah, don't even do that. Just tell me what kind it is. We'll kind of just talk through that part. So label it as one of the types that we just talked about. Some of them have multiple answers. Like that first one, what'd you guys put? So I think you could say systematic or convenience. Either one of those. We did every one of these, like physically did. I didn't put the names in the hat, but we did cluster physically, we did convenience physically, we did systematic physically. We didn't do voluntary, I guess. I don't want to. I don't want to know your passionate opinions. What? That just make people mad. Is that what you said? Oh, never mind. I don't want to debate.
I knew Dave was going to ask that. I knew Dave was going to say something. We're going to make America great again.
We're not debating. Keep it civil. I was trying to leave you more time to do your con. You'll only have like 10 minutes or so. But extend the class? Like make the class go till 10:30? You can stay if you want. You can stay. I go to lunch. You want to eat lunch together? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, people come here and eat. That's where it's at. First one, I think you could say systematic or convenience. Second one, SRS. Third one, cluster. Good. Fourth, stratified. 5, Voluntary 6. Stratified. Now, be careful. That's only stratified if I think gender matters. Which, almost everything, like, you can kind of argue it might matter, so it probably is, but... 7. Stratified again, like, only if I think race matters. 8. Systematic. 9. Convenience. Or systematic, you could argue with it. Questions on any of this? Is that, do you feel like you learned, well, do you feel like you learned better when I give you the notes?
This makes more sense than the books.
I learned like 4 I also like the visual.
Well, this is easier too, so that's part of it. But activities, that was a good lesson. That was solid.
That was, if we were to take a survey on how good of a teacher you were today, you should do those lessons right before a survey.
They don't give out surveys.